I got round 2 or shot 2 or whatever you want to say of the vaccine yesterday, so I got a little bit of a headache. So probably not going to be real loud today. And probably going to ask you guys a lot of questions so you can do more of the teaching than I do. You know what I mean? Essentially, I'm going to make you do my job today. How's that sound? Brady, you just want to come up front and just do the whole thing? No? Okay, well, I gave you the opportunity at least. So hopefully you guys were discussing inequalities while I was out of the room, because of course you all dove into like, oh, what's an inequality? I'm joking. Yeah, yours will be on Thursday. Yeah, so that's since Green is following this week. So great question from Megan. Mastery on Wednesday. Yeah, so for you guys that will be Thursday. And then you also get Friday, which will be sweet because Friday is just essentially going to be like a bonus day for us. So I'm not 100% sure what we'll do on Friday yet. We could just take the lead back from Blue, which is probably what will happen. So, anyone want to read this first sentence? Harish, go ahead. Yeah, so let's highlight an inequality tells us a range of values. Can anyone remind us of what our elementary teachers probably said about the inequality? Chomp, chomp, chomp. So the gator is going to eat, or the crocodile, I don't know why they tend to say crocodile more than alligator, but the crocodile is going to eat or point its mouth like open towards the bigger number. So what that means is if I come over here, and we're going to fill some stuff in on this table. If I come over here and say D is less than 5, that means whatever the number D is has to be under 5. So D is the number of dogs I own. I own 4 dogs. Can I get one more dog and still have D is less than 5? No, because then I would have 5 dogs, and 5 is not less than 5, right? So we use an inequality to mean not equal, but to show one of them's bigger than the other, right? So we normally use X, though. So instead of D or F or J or K, and you might use one of those other letters, but we often use X. So I might, instead of saying D is less than 5, say X is less than 5. Now, what's really, really tricky about inequalities, I can say the exact same thing, but use this symbol. I just flip the whole thing around, and I say 5 is greater than D. This is the exact same thing as that. So what's tricky is you can always use either symbol. So if one of you is arguing greater than and the other one of you is arguing less than, you're both right. Just depends on how you write it, right? So you could say D is less than 5, 5 is greater than D. These mean the same thing. Now, if I come over here and I look at these symbols, what's different about this symbol? Samaje, what do you think? What's different about this symbol versus this symbol? Yeah, there's a line under it. Thank you. Yeah, I was literally just wanting you to observe what was different. And that line, when I look at what's different about the description, or equal to. So go ahead and highlight those lines under there and highlight or equal to. And then some other words. This list is not comprehensive, meaning there are more things we could add to the list, right? So now if I want to talk about how many dogs I have, I can say D is less than or equal to 4 because I have 4 dogs, because I'm equal to 4 dogs. Now I can change the number that I'm using here. And likewise, if I flip this around, 4 is less than or equal to D, these things mean the same thing. Caroline, if we want to order pizzas for next week and we want to get at least 90, and we put you in charge of ordering pizzas. How many pizzas are you going to order? 90? You're just going to go with 90? That's fine. Is 90 at least 90? Okay, so Caroline says, all right, to get at least 90, I'm going to get 90. Brady, what about you? If I put you in charge of ordering pizzas and I say, get at least 90, how many are you going to get? 1,000,000. Brady calls jets. He's like, y'all better be ready for this. Is 1,000,000 at least 90? Yeah, like would everyone have a pizza? Yeah. It might make a bit more sense to get an amount they can actually make in a day. So like 100, right? 100 is at least 90. Could I order 85? No, well, I could, but it would not be at least 90, so someone's going to be sad. Right? If I order 85, that's not good. Someone's going to be sad. So how we write this is P is greater than or equal to. We could, yeah, Caroline's thinking responsibly. She's like, don't waste food. Let's just order 90. Brady's thinking like a middle school boy who can eat like the Empire State Building and is like, let's order 1,000,000 pizzas. I got this.
No, I should have said 1 billion.
How tall would 1,000,000,000 pizzas be? How many delivery vehicles do you think it would take to deliver 1,000,000,000? I think we're going to have to go delivery bus at that point, like school bus. So, now bumping down to our next section here. Negative numbers. Go ahead and highlight negative numbers. Now, this next section, I'm sorry about how the print happened. I'm going to just show you the actual notes for a minute so you can copy what should be highlighted. What's in blue is what we're looking at. So guys, be real careful. This is an open point. It's an open circle. That is not a dot. It's an open circle. And we're going to talk specifically about why. But go ahead and with a highlighter, kind of make some highlighting to reflect open circle and highlight to the left. And then go ahead and while you're holding your highlighter, just fix the other ones as well. Sorry, this is what happens when you print a color document out of a gray, like grayscale printer. Gray is not the same as blue. It's definitely not. And don't worry, if you're still working on it, you can catch up as we fill them out. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this back over. Sonny, can you tell me how we might say this? Or like how we might write the inequality that represents this? Yeah. So we're going to use the less than, right? Absolutely correct. Sonny's identifying. We're going to use the less than. So instead of saying negative numbers, right, or numbers, we can just use a letter, right? So like if n is the negative numbers, n is less than 0. Now the really weird thing, and quite frankly, this is annoying. Like we said, every inequality can be written in two ways. So, or 0 is bigger than, or 0 is greater than the negative numbers. This is awkward. Like, I don't even like how it sounds, right? 0 is bigger than the negative numbers. It's just weird. So we normally say the variable first, but mathematically speaking, this is also correct. So, guys, if you're handed something like this, I would turn it around. I would pick the whole thing up and turn it around, get it back to where the variable's on the left, and then talk about it. Now again, normally we say x, right? So if you want to write that one down too, x is less than 0, we are normally using the x as the variable. Well, just really because this is really like number line work. And the number line work is really looked at as the x dimension because on the graph, it's the x line, it's the x-axis. Take a moment and try the next 4 on your own. Remembering that the part that is shaded is what our x is allowed to be. What's up? Alright, we're talking about inequalities. We're ordering 1,000,000 pizzas, though.
A million?
I told Grant to order at least 90, and he said, well, 1,000,000 is at least 90. Or, sorry, Brady, not Grant. Sorry, Grant's card is sitting here on... Grant, you're next. So,
That's a lot of pizza.
he is a growing boy, right? Takes him home to Luke. So I like to put like an x above the range that is shaded to talk about, well, x could be 1, x could be 2, x could be 3, x could be 4, x could be 5, x could be 6, x could be 7, x could be 8, x could be 9, x could be 10, x could be... No one's going to tell me to stop? Okay, well, I'll stop, I guess. Keep going. So Grant, how could I say this using an inequality instead of me listing every option of x? Yeah. X is greater than 0. Or we could, I don't know, for some reason, put 0 is bigger than x. Or, sorry, 0 is less than x down here. So now, like, this makes a tad bit more sense in this situation, because if we're thinking left to right, 0 is less than or at the bottom of my range of x. This makes a tad bit more sense now. But I still like this way better. Sophie, what about the next one? Have you gotten to that yet? Yeah, x is less than -2. Or, the other way we could write it, -2 is greater than x. Realize that when we flip it around, the inequality flips around. Guys, what's funny, first off, thank you, but what's funny is even when I'm not feeling good, once I start teaching, I don't know if you guys have ever heard the phrase, fake it till you make it, but it's like, kind of means like try to trick yourself. When I'm teaching and I get to like hang out with you guys, I can forget that I feel crappy, but then like as soon as I stop teaching, it's like, oh yeah, you feel bad. Harish, what about our next one? The point is part of the solution now. Yeah, it's longer to say now, right? Greater than or equal to can also be equal to. So if you want to highlight this up here in my explanation, when the point is part of the solution, we use the or equal to symbols. Colin, what about the next one here? Sorry, what was that again? 0 is less than or equal to x. If we want to look at the range that is our x, which this is my advice, right? I always try to give you the advice of what I think is easiest. We would say x is above, right, we're going up, or equal to, this is like our barricade point, 0. So x is greater than or equal to 0, the range of our values. To double check that we got those pointed the right direction. Also, sometimes, guys, I do struggle to hear you. So sometimes that's the issue, is I just can't hear you. Now when we go to graph it, I'm going to give you guys one of them and then let you do the next two. So now we're just turning that process around. Right? So instead of them giving us the graph and us interpreting what that means, when they tell us make a range of numbers x that are greater than the barrier point 1. So how we do this, real easy 3-step process. Sorry, I should not have said easy. 1, the only number that matters, we're going to call our reference number. So over here, highlight or underline reference number. It's really the only number that matters. What do I mean by reference number? The only number we tell you. We only talk about one number. So that's the number we put on our number line. That's it. Guys, there are certain laws in math that you cannot break. And one of them is that to the right on a number line is more. To the left on a number line is less. We flip it vertically. Up is more. Down is less. You cannot break those laws. It's like me saying, well, I feel like I should be able to drive 100 miles an hour on the highway. It doesn't matter. No one cares. You can't do that. Like, you're not allowed to do that, right? So middle schoolers often like to say, well, what if I think the number line goes up? No.
I would like to be able to drive 100 miles.
Right? That's not even physically possible. So we always know that this direction is more, and we always know that this direction is less. So the only number we need to put on there is 1. So we put 1 on the number line. Step 2, put your circle and decide if you fill it in or not. For greater than, we do not fill it in because we don't have or equal to. Then shade left or right. Step 3 is shade left or right. Here, to go more than, you go right. Can you see from there all right? I really actually just shoved that desk over there. I didn't know if it was going to be a spot where kids could sit. Can you see? Kind of, because you can always sit in that desk too, the one with the very desk. We can drop it down. You'd be able to see a little bit easier from there. So do the next 2 on your own. Do the next 2 on your own. I will leave this up here on the screen. If you get those done and get bored, flip to the back. You got 3 more on the back. Guys, remember, this is your safe spot to goof up. I would do this in pencil while we're still learning how to do this, but this is your safe spot to goof up. I'm going to flip the timer to keep me honest, to give you at least a couple minutes to do this. Perfect timing. Oh, thank you. Finn, yeah, he's got huge eyeballs. People are like, you could just say he has big eyes. And I'm like, no, scientifically speaking, he has huge eyeballs. It's like all the better to see things with, right? I think he's ready to take on the world. He seems very alert. Like, even for a baby, he seems like aware. Now, we haven't gotten to meet him, of course, because of COVID, but we've Zoomed, right? We've Zoomed with them. Pretty much only seen my family through Zoom in the whole past year. Mm-hmm. You know, I will admit, when somebody said, you know, they're going to make us all wear masks, I was like, that'll never work. Like, that people would wear, I know masks work, like, I know they're effective, but I really didn't think people would be able to handle, and still, it's not working perfectly. I go to Home Depot, and there's some idiots there. Just like my 3-step process I described to you of put the number, decide if the point is open or closed, and then shade left or right. As I call on you, if you can tell me, like, put, here, we don't use 7 here. So if it was like, put 7 on the number line, fill in the circle, and then shade to the right, right? That would be like talking me through this. So Leah, can you talk me through this next one of how I do this? Yep. Put 0 on the number line. We do not shade it in. And we shade to the right. Sorry, I kind of revealed that early. Megan, what about the next one? Ooh, she said this time we shade the circle in. Right? So it's the same, just we shade the circle in. And it doesn't really matter where you put your number, but in the middle, it's kind of nice. Like, you don't have to think that 0's in the middle. The number we're working with, we can just put in the middle. So as we flip to the back, even though those numbers aren't 0, right? We've got -2 and 5 and -4. Even though those numbers aren't 0, just go ahead and put them in the middle. So I'm giving you a moment to try these out on your own. You can tell you're next, can't you? Nason's staring at me like, I know my card's coming soon. Nason, you want to talk me through this one? Yeah, so first we have to make a -2, right? But then we shade it in, and then we forward to the right, right? I don't know if we're allowed to call that forward. I mean, yeah, I guess. I guess it counts as forward. Yeah, the positive direction. I guess we want to move in the positive direction. We want to move forward. Morgan, what about the next one? You got that one done yet? You want to talk us through it? Yeah. Is the circle shaded in or open? So here's the trick that I want to tell you guys now. I don't like starting with tricks. Notice how this symbol and or this symbol take extra ink to make the symbol. Like when you think about the printer printing it, that's extra ink. So it gets extra ink. That's another way that you can remind yourself. Like, yeah, remembering that they mean or equal to, obviously that's what we're hoping you do, is remember it means or equal to. But as far as the making the graph, we know it means we have to add some extra ink. Colin, you want to talk me through the last one? Yep, and then, yep, -4, open circle to the right. Again, on the next ones, I'm going to show you one and ask you to do the others on your own. We are being asked to essentially figure out if someone's lying. Uh-oh. Shouldn't lie. That's not good. Now, here's the thing about math. I love math because it's all about facts, but that doesn't mean that everything you write down is true. Could I write down 2 + 3 = 27? Yeah, my paper's not going to catch on fire or anything. I kind of wish. That'd be sweet. But I can write down things that aren't true. That, when you do it about somebody else, is called libel, by the way. It's illegal. But all because it's illegal doesn't mean people don't do it. So when they write down 7x is less than 21, that's saying, well, assuming we choose the right x. So if we wanted to test, well, what x's make this true and what x's make this false, we can test it. So if x was 1, 7 times x would be 7 times 1. Is that less than 21? Yeah, that's true. Good, sweet. X is 1 is allowed. It is true. When you try x being 2, still true. Delaney, what about when we try x = 3? Is that less than 21? No, why? What is 7 times 3? Yeah, 21 is not less than 21. 21 is equal to 21. So, just like back on the front of the paper, my wife's not allowed to get dog number 5. Like, she probably would if I hadn't said no more dogs right now. Like, we had to get surgery for all my dogs last year, and that was, like, surprising, and we made it work. But, like, dogs are expensive, guys. So I love dogs, but we're not getting a 5th dog. You cannot equal 21. You have to be less than. We got to be less than 5 dogs, not equal to 5 dogs. All right, try the next 2 on your own. I do want to point out that the third one is in the form that we don't really like because the variable's on the right-hand side. So what we're allowed to do is flip it around, but be careful because the variable flips around. So what starts as less than, when we pick up the inequality and flip the whole thing around, turns into greater than, because the whole thing has to turn around. So if you want to put your variable on the left side, we pick it up and flip the whole thing over. But you got to make sure that you still write b minus 3 as b minus 3. It does not turn into 3 minus b. Right, so when I say flip the whole thing around, that doesn't mean write it going the other direction. We still have b minus 3. We still have 5. We flip that symbol. All right, take a moment or two on your own. Samaja, when we check a equaling 3, is this true or false? Is 7 plus 3 less than 11? Yeah, because it is 10, right? So is 10 less than 11? Yep. Sweet. When we look at 7 plus 4 is less than 11, Harish, is this true? You sound like you have an upward inflection on that. What is 7 plus 4? Oh, and 11's not less than 11. So yeah, it does not work. That is false. And 7 plus 5, of course, we can probably realize we've already figured out the barrier, right? 4 is kind of like the barrier that I can't cross. So this, everything past that is going to be false, right? 4 is essentially acting like our barricade, and we cannot equal 4. And the next 3, Sophie, what do you think about the first one? If we use my flipped around order, is 8 minus 3 greater than 5? Oh no, because it's equal. Crap, all these equal situations. Caroline, is 9 minus 3 greater than 5? Yeah, because it's 6, right? 9 minus 3 would be 6. And likewise, we found the barrier, but coming the other direction. So now we know, oh, now we're good, right? Because now as our numbers go up, now we're good. So we found our barricade here is like 8. So the whole guess and check process is okay if we don't know how to solve, but we're better than that. Why are you laughing? Do you not think we're better than that? Fine. You can just guess and check your way to a very long and very frustrating life. But I think we're better than that, except there's a trap door. Harish? All of the choices they gave you what? Oh, sometimes they're all correct. Sometimes we don't find one that doesn't work. So first thing I need you to do here is fix a typo. I pulled this from the internet, and by the time I ran the copies, I was like, this is wrong, but we can fix it in class. These are negatives on your paper. I need you to turn them into pluses, like positives, right? So get your pen or your pencil and just make it look like a plus, a positive. And that just, we saved a tree, right? We saved 45 copies. Because I will never rerun a copy because of a typo. That's silly. We can fix typos on the paper. And recycling paper still leaves carbon footprint. So guys, here's what the notes looked like. And this is why you have the same step twice over here, essentially. What I want you to think about when we look at this. Pencils down for a second. So when we think about multiplication and division, we know that multiplying by 1 doesn't do anything. Dividing by 1 doesn't do anything. So if you want to not do anything, multiply or divide by 1. Then we start thinking about if I start with just the opposite of what I want. We're starting with negative x, but what we want is positive x. Well, I can't just multiply by 1 because it won't do anything. What I can do is multiply by negative 1 because the 1 does nothing. But what's a negative times a negative going to do? Turn us into a positive. But then we have to take a pause because multiplying by a negative actually tells us to turn around. It's telling us, like, go the other direction, right? Do the opposite of what you were actually going to do. So what that tells us to do, and now you can highlight this if you want, is grab the thing that has a direction, right? This direction matters, and turn it around. When we multiply or divide both sides of an inequality, because this is like I chose to do this, we flip the direction of the inequality. As I'm telling you, that's the most frustrating part of solving inequalities, because when we were solving equations, guys, this happened when we were solving equations. But what happens when you flip around an equal sign? It's the same. The direction of an equal sign doesn't matter, but the direction of one of these does. So likewise, if we do this with division, just same thing happens. Division is essentially the same as multiplication, right? But this thing had a typo because negative divided by negative becomes positive and negative divided by negative becomes positive. We do flip this sign, though. So down here, the last thing we're going to do in class is this section where we're going to solve these. I got the first one done for you, and I got the solution written in both ways. So remember, all we're doing is exactly what we've already done. Same stuff as you did with equations, which we have a test on Thursday over. Undo addition with subtraction. Undo multiplication with division, right? We're using inverse operations. Inverse operations. Have at it. I'm probably going to give you like 5 minutes. And our 5 wonderful volunteers will be Megan, Leah, Delaney, Brady, and Morgan. So unless any of you guys pass, those will be the 5 problems that carry us out through class. So if I didn't read your name, you're still practicing these, but you know you're not getting called on probably. So The waiting is the hardest part. The waiting. Probably no one knows the song I'm talking about. I have to prove to you that I'm not a... Don't know. Don't know. It's Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Guys, just to give you an idea of how far music has come, this is a song that is stuck in my head now because I'm thinking about, like, the waiting for me is the hardest part. Look at how cool this music video is. Yeah, the 80s. Sick music video, dude. By the way, in case you were worried about these lines, that's just a like a print issue sort of thing. The pictures that I copied, I thought those would pretty much disappear, but they ended up showing up on the print, so ignore those. So Megan, just so we can show at least one more new one up on the board to help anyone who's stuck, can you tell me what to do with this -4 to get x by itself? Yeah, now, by make it positive, I know what you mean, but tell me what we're going to do to both sides. Yeah, put a +4 on the left and a +4 on the right, which you could draw your line down the middle if you want. Remember, that gets our x by itself, and we get x less than or equal to 5. Leah, in this last one over here, what do we do to deal with this 4? Yeah, we divide both sides by 4. Does that flip around that inequality? No, why not? We divided. Oh, but by a positive. This only happens when we divide by a negative, right? So make sure that you did not think this always happens. It only matters if it's negative, so our sign stays the same direction that it started, and we get 3. I'm going to take another pause to let you guys get that bottom row done. Those have trapdoors. Avoid the trapdoors. Delaney down here with that -5. How are we going to get rid of that and get x by itself? You guys can always pass too, but it is perfectly fine to take a moment to think. Sorry, I can't hear you quite. Ooh, you're close. This is multiplication. So if we don't recognize that, this would be really tough. So yeah, that's the tricky part here, is we have to recognize that's multiplication. So the inverse operation would be division. So we're actually going to divide by -5. So even though it's a negative, we're not adding. Right? That negative is performing multiplication, so we undo it. And because we divided by a negative, guys, I would put like a star or something here. This is our trap door. This is our trap door, right? So that we could point back up to the trap door, right? If you want to draw a big old arrow up to here, that's going to flip. Oh, this is how I take notes. Don't you judge me. We're going to flip this, but we only flip the sign, right? So it was less than. Now we make it greater than. Well, like I said, I don't love that because the variable doesn't come first. So we could also write it x is less than -3. But notice I flipped the whole thing around. The crocodile has to still open towards the same number. So both of these answers are the same as each other. This one I went ahead and wrote down one of the ideas that we could do, but we could also divide by -1. So whichever way you take doesn't matter. Choose either multiply by -1 or divide by -1. It literally gets exactly the same answer. A positive x, a positive 29. Well, we got to flip this. Right? That trapdoor, that special rule. And we'll go class answer. Well, I promised it to Brady and Morgan, but we'll go class answer. What do we do here to fix this problem and get x by itself? Multiply by what? Multiply by what? -4. Yeah, I'm not just hard of hearing. I probably am, but I'm not just. So we get 120 positive, right? Because negative times negative. This flips because of our special rule. And we could also grab that entire thing and write it the other direction. I'm going to come around with wipes. Thank you guys for another fantastic class. Yeah, man, I don't know if you can sit here at this time of the afternoon with the glare. It might be too bad. Yeah, so crowding by the doorway is not going to work, friends. I mean this with love, but go away from my doorway. You're going to want one for each set. Thank you guys very much. You are awesome. Have a great rest of your day.